So Leon Jennings here from Asian Persuasion MMA. I'm here with the Tiger Muay Thai main man, George Hickman. George, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. So how are things? How is it running a gym in these crazy times?
It's definitely a bit different, especially like, the type of gym that Tiger Muay Thai is, and as well as like so many other gyms in Thailand. A lot of we cater to, mostly foreign customers. So it's a bit different. It's a bit bleak, like driving around and not seeing, like people walking around like normal, and the gym being packed. So it is a bit different, but in a positive way, it's been nice to, the fighters that we have that are sponsored at Tiger that have, stayed here through COVID. It's been a good time to, to have a lot of focus, just as like a team, the normal group of people that really like we consider our team and live here throughout the year. So that has been a nice thing.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, it's obviously hit all MMA gyms hard, but particularly say in Thailand where so many of your fighters are coming from out of the country. I mean, how much more challenging has that made it?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't even really consider it like challenging because the people that stayed, like, there's a group of people for the most part that kind of stay here most of the year anyways. So it's been like a core group of people. And then, yeah, like you said, we have fighters coming in and out all the time from overseas. And I've had a lot of, fighters from like the UFC and stuff messaging me. And is there any update on when the country's going to open back up, or, can they apply for a visa, there, or should they book the flight? So I've just kind of like told everybody, like I'll send updates as I get them, like, for the fighters that are like wanting to get back right away. If I see an update or something online, I just kind of forward it to them off like Facebook or whatever. And just tell them to stay patient and don't book anything until, until we know 100% that everything's going to open up. Because I feel like things change here quite quickly. They say one thing and then it may change the next. So it's just better to be safe. But yeah.
How's it been for the fighters out there for their visas? Has Thai been quite relaxed?
Yeah. I think for the most part, I haven't heard of any cases. I think that they were just giving, like, I think for a while, like during COVID, like during lockdown and stuff, if I'm not mistaken, I think for a while they didn't have to go to immigration. They just got an automatic extension. I'm not positive, but I've heard people say like even if they do go to immigration now, like I had to go recently. Like normally for my work visa, I don't have to go to immigration to do a check-in because I fly so much, cornering people and stuff. So there's a thing where if you leave like a certain amount of time before the extension, you don't have to actually go do it. So I leave so much, I've never had to do it in, 6 years. And this was the first time that I had to drive to immigration for that purpose, for that reason. But it was quick. There was no one there. I just pulled up. They have a drive-through, and it took about 5 minutes, and they gave me my passport back. So it's definitely different. Like I feel like Phuket's back to normal as far as like businesses are open and everything's like, normal in the beach. It's just in this province, you're used to seeing so many foreigners, and obviously there's just not a lot of them right now. So hopefully soon.
Yeah, Thailand has done a good job. I mean, my mum lives in Thailand, in Koh Phangan, and she was surprised just how seriously they took it. They completely,
Yeah.
I didn't really saw it on the island, and then I think it's been 45 days now since Thailand have had any cases or
Yeah.
public.
Yeah. I think that they've had some cases, but it's been people like Thais that have been coming back from other countries and they get quarantined right away and, sent to the hospital. So yeah, it's, they definitely have, done a good job, I guess, at containing it or whatever.
You mentioned before, what some of the positives you're taking away from this whole experience? I mean, it's unimaginable what the world's been going through lately.
Yeah, it's, never in my lifetime I've never obviously experienced anything like this, and never even thought about it, until it became a reality. And it was funny because I was like, well, obviously not funny, but when I went to one championship in January, I hadn't even really heard too much about COVID, and my wife like told me like, oh, you need to wear a mask and do this and do that, and then when I went in February to New Zealand for the UFC, it was starting to get a bit more serious, but still like I wasn't like that concerned about it. And then I had one fighter supposed to fight in the States in March, and I still didn't think that they were going to cancel the event. And then when they canceled NBA, I knew that it was serious at that point. So yeah, it's just been, I think people have had a lot of time to like reflect on, I mean, on everything, especially like when we, like the core part of like the lockdown when we couldn't really leave a certain part of Phuket. Like there was like kind of like a, I don't know, 5 mile radius of a circle almost where I live at, that we couldn't go past one certain stoplight, and the other way you couldn't go past the roundabout. So they were keeping people in like their sub districts and stuff. But yeah, it definitely gives you a time to reflect and think about a lot of different stuff. During the lockdown, I just tried to stay busy and continue to watch film. And I started training myself a little bit because normally I haven't trained in a while. So I started training again a bit, and just try to keep myself busy and try to not stay stagnant during that time.
So how did you end up at Tiger Muay Thai, the head coach there? You're very young. You've got a very good job. How did it all come about, the move to Thailand, Tiger Muay Thai?
In 2014, my manager was speaking to me, and I was looking at maybe coming to Asia to train and stuff. And then I saw a thing for the tryouts because my original plan had kind of like fallen through or came to a halt. And I saw the tryouts, and I messaged. I had a friend, Musin Corbre, who's from Atlanta and trains with my Muay Thai coach in the U.S., Manu, and I messaged Alan Belcher, and he's a friend of mine, just all because my Muay Thai coach in the States trains both of them, and they kind of like sent an email, I guess, to the person who was running the gym at that time, and I got selected for the tryouts, and I came and did the tryouts and made the team, and the rest is history. Probably, I don't know, 5-6 months after the tryouts, I think Brian Ebersole was kind of like transitioning out, and he was going, I think his wife was pregnant and stuff, and he was going to Australia. So I became the assistant coach to Roger Huerta, and then over time, he didn't want to coach anymore, and I kind of just fell into the position as the head coach, and then yeah, been here ever since. And my brother's come out, and he's the head wrestling coach, and we have now Alex Shield and Emilo Uridia and Tariq Suleiman, who are the BJJ coaches, and Rafael, who's in the UFC, is the kickboxing coach, and we have a really good team of coaches for MMA and as well as for boxing. John Boy, who's actually with Petr Yan right now in Fight Island, and he helps heaps with the team for the MMA guys. So it's good. It's good.
Let's talk about Peter. So he's obviously in Fight Island now. He's fighting Jose Aldo this weekend. How's his training camp been?
It's been good, man. It's been different, that's for sure. We kind of knew, we knew pretty much like when he was going to fight and stuff. But it's just been like with the travel and things like that, it's been a bit of a headache, but he's there and he's ready to go. And yeah, it's a big 2 weeks for us at Tiger.
How's that been, like you say, with the circumstances, training partners? Has there been enough training partners for him to work?
Yeah, for sure. So like for most of Peter's, well, I would say the beginning, was when he knew pretty much that he was going to fight. He had some mats at his villa that he was staying at, and my brother would go over a couple times a week and wrestle with him. And John Boy, the boxing coach, who is pretty much Peter's head coach, he works with him like quite extensively on his striking. So he would go over and hold pads for him and stuff. And then I would say probably the last, I think it's been, time goes by so fast, especially when you think it's going by slow, but then you look back and it's fast. But I think once the gym reopened, it was good. Peter could get back in and get good work in. But most of the time, we just kept it like, small groups of a couple people that would spar with him, and my brother obviously would wrestle with him and stuff like that, and then his pads. So nothing too different except just not like, tons of people at the gym. So more of like, I would say, small group trainings.
And how do you see the matchup with Jose Aldo going?
I think it's an exciting matchup. It's interesting now that Jose's back at down at bantamweight, and I think it's cool because they've trained together before and whatnot. But I think that Peter is he's obviously very well rounded, and I think with every fight he's improved. From one fight to the next, he hasn't stayed the same. He's improved and jumped levels from every fight, and I think it's not going to be an easy matchup. But without saying too much, I think that Peter just has a very high fight IQ, and as long as he does what he normally does, I think that he will be fine.
He's one of them fighters people have been talking about for a little while, saying he's a surefire champion, and he's a killer, and he's in a stacked division as well.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a fun one. Also, obviously, Alex Volkanovski's fighting Max Holloway, spends time at Tiger. How do you see that one going?
I would say the same or better. I think that obviously Max has he thinks whatever it is that he thinks. I think that he didn't think that it was that Alex won or whatnot. I've heard stuff in the media recently, but for me, watching that and then watching it again, because I watched it again recently, I think Alex won every round of the fight and controlled, and you can say what you want about it, but at that high of a level of a fight with those two guys with such good fight IQs, I think that Alex won every round and controlled the fight and fought smart. That he stuck to his game plan of what him and his team went over and wanted to do during the fight. And when you're fighting for a world title at that level, you have to stay focused the whole time for every minute of those 5 rounds. And I think that he did that. And when I watched the fight, knowing the things that I know about his coaches and himself and training with them, it was a great fight, and I think he controlled everything. He didn't I think he won every round, and I mean, it wasn't like he blew him out of the water, but I think that he definitely controlled the fight the whole time. And and I think it'll be the same. And I think he's made it publicly a couple times saying that he was looking to finish him. And I wouldn't be, I don't doubt Alex at all. From the beginning of his career in the UFC, I think that a lot of people, didn't really pay him a lot of attention. He wasn't a very loud, shit talking type of guy. He's honestly probably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, and almost sometimes too nice. But but I never once doubted him. Even with when he fought Mendez and Mendez dropped him in the 1 round, it didn't. When I was watching it on TV, it didn't. I wasn't nervous for him at all because I know the type of person that he is, and he just. Over the last 3 fights, I would say the rest of the world got to see what we've all known for the last 6 years. So, it's awesome to see now that he's the champion, and I never doubted for 1 second that he would become the champion. It's awesome to see, and I look for him to put on an even better performance than his last fight.
What are your thoughts on Max's comments that he's only trained on his own in preparation for this weekend?
I don't really buy into that. I mean, surely if you're getting ready for, everyone in the world has been in the same situation, every country's had some type of rules that have been implemented, during this COVID situation. And Alex, the same thing for Alex. He comes here to Tiger for maybe 2 weeks, and my brother and I help him. Really, my brother, because he's there with him now as well, Frank. And then he'll go to New Zealand and finish off his camp. Also training at home in Australia as well with his head coach Joe. But it is what it is. It's like if you sign that dotted line, like what you're getting yourself into. And Alex, didn't do what he normally does, come here and go to New Zealand and stuff, but he made do with what he had, and I think he had a good camp. And I know that my brother was in contact with his head coach Joe Lopez and Eugene and Brad Riddell from City Kickboxing. So they talked all through the camp, and I would imagine that Max, whether he was training at his house or somewhere else, I'm sure that he had training partners, and he was just not training online, like he said.
It's been interesting. The first time round, there's a lot of respect between the two. This time, there's been a little bit of back and forth in interviews, just to give it a little extra edge this weekend. Obviously, as well as UFC, we've got one championship coming back end of the month in Thailand. That's kind of a good thing for you, although it's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, they've only announced 3 fights so far, but I imagine most of the card's going to be Thai athletes. Yeah,
well, that's what I was thinking before, that I thought that Thailand would probably be the first place that they would hold the one event, or the first event back, just because they're obviously, they have the Muay Thai and kickboxing with the MMA. So I think that just in this country, there's such a pool of fighters that you can pull from, whether it's Muay Thai or kickboxing and MMA, because there's, some big MMA gyms in the country. And there's a lot of fighters that stayed here through COVID, not only in Phuket, but in other gyms as well. So I figured that it would be the first event back. And once they started announcing of fights, or once we had heard about it, because I was originally supposed to go, my brother's with Volkanovski this week, and I was supposed to go this weekend and leave with Rafael for his fight next weekend. But I didn't. Once I found out that you had to quarantine when you come back, and I have a family and stuff, and if my brother and I were both quarantining, there's really no one, not a lot of people training the other fighters and stuff. So I got to help all those guys get prepared for their fights in one. And so I decided to stay back, and so he's staying there for Rafael as well. So it'll be good. It's I'm excited because, man, it's been so long, since I've been at an event and been able to to work and enjoy all of that. So I'm excited for it.
So you'll go to Bangkok at the end of the month?
Yes, I will be there.
So do you have any athletes competing on the card? I know they haven't revealed too much so far.
Yeah, we have 4 or 5, I believe. A couple confirmed and a couple that are almost confirmed. But yeah, it will definitely be an exciting weekend, a good weekend. Yeah,
I was at the Singapore show behind closed doors, which was kind of a unique affair. It's going to be strange not being this one. I mean, I think last year I was at every event apart from the 2 China cards. So it's going to be strange watching a one event on the TV.
Yeah. No, that's I remember watching the last one because obviously Shannon was fighting in that one.
Yeah.
And I didn't go with him, but I was watching on TV, and that was before the UFC was holding events like that in Florida. And so it was the first time seeing that, no fans there, and it's definitely a bit different. But I feel like everything with that's happened really during this time as a world, every week things have changed. So people, especially in the beginning, people have had to adapt, and you just kind of get used to it right away, 1 or 2 times. And then now when I watch the events, it's oh, there's no people, and it's been like that for a while now. So it'll definitely be different. It'll be definitely be a different experience, but yeah, it'll be a good time.
From a coach's point of view, I guess there's a lot of advantages. I mean, it's been quite fun watching the events with no fans and hearing everything. I mentioned from a coach's point of view, it's easier then to communicate with your fighters during the fight.
Yeah, I think I definitely think that will be easier to communicate with them. But for me, I like I think that the crowd and, one championship or, whatever promotion it is, I think it's a lot of fighters can feed off of that, the adrenaline from the crowd and things like that. And, it'll definitely be a different experience, not only for, our athletes, but, to coach in that environment as well. Cause I've never coached where it's like a fight and there's really no one there, usually it's a packed gym, or even if it's a smaller show, there's still, 300-400 people there. So it definitely will be a different experience. But if I had to choose, I would prefer the crowd.
Brilliant. Well, it's going to be a fun few weeks with the UFC and Fight Island. One notice at the end of the month. Appreciate your time today, George, and good luck all your fighters coming up this weekend.
Of course,
and the rest of the month.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. See you later.